Hello everyone, my name's Josie. Welcome to my channel and episode 1 of Everything Sewing. Today I'm going to talk to y'all about 4 different ways y'all can look at getting into sewing that does not require purchasing an entire sewing setup. And also, if you are interested, at the end of this video I will give a financial breakdown of the basics that are needed to get started with sewing at home. So let's get into it. So the first recommendation I have for y'all is to phone a friend or a family member. If there is someone in your life who happens to have a sewing machine, see if they would let you borrow the sewing machine, or even better, see if they would be willing to teach you how to use the sewing machine. If you do follow along with this, I would recommend already having a plan of what you would like to sew, which would mean that you should already have the pattern and the fabric as well. But it is a great way to end up having a bonding experience with the person that may be helping you. And it's a great way to build confidence in sewing when you end up being comfortable around the person that is teaching you how to sew. Bonus point if you also end up with a finished project at the end. So the next recommendation I have is to check out your local library. Nowadays, most libraries are equipped with some sort of craft room, which does typically include at least one sewing machine. And if they are funded and supported, everything that you would need to get started with sewing would already be available at the library, like fabric, threads, patterns, etc. If you're wanting something in particular though, do know you'll probably have to go and buy that separately. So if you're wanting a specific fabric, you may just have to go buy that. Some libraries may also offer sewing classes, starting from like complete beginner, which would be like learning the machine and how to use it, to even smaller planned projects that you would be able to take home with you, like tote bags, pillows, or keychains. Most of these classes obviously would be in a group setting, but it is still a great option to be able to get started with sewing. Running off of the class options, you can also check out community centers and craft or fabric stores to see if they are running any classes as well. These classes will be separated by skill level, starting from beginner all the way up to advanced or professional levels. The prices for these classes will vary, but I would say expect to spend at least $50 per project. And do know that some of these projects may end up being scheduled to be completed over multiple classes or sessions and not just be completed in one setting. So the last option that I will recommend to y'all is going to be hand sewing. It will be the most tedious and time-consuming option that's here, but it is the most beneficial skill that you can learn. To get started with hand sewing, you will need to purchase a set of hand sewing needles and thread. Both cost around $4 each. And to get started with hand sewing, you will have to learn quite a few different hand stitches, and just be careful to not poke yourself too many times before you get the hang of it. With that being said, those are all the options that I can recommend to y'all to look at getting into sewing that does not require purchasing a sewing machine. Now let's get into the sewing basics that you would need along with the cost breakdown. Just a quick disclaimer here before we start going into the financials for the basics that you'll need for sewing. All of this research I did at the end of 2025 / the beginning of 2026 and is a rough estimate from all of the prices that I could find, so it may differ for you. And also this little sheet is based solely on if you purchased a sewing machine completely new, not if you purchased it secondhand or if you even got it from like a friend, whatever. It's just if you buy a sewing machine completely new. It was the only way I was able to get like an unbiased price on the sewing machine, so then you wouldn't be thinking that you could get it for a lot cheaper, which of course does make the financial slightly more expensive, but you could get it cheaper if you do purchase the sewing machine secondhand. Now that we got that out of the way, let's go into the financial sheet. The first thing that you are going to need is a sewing machine. The average cost of a sewing machine is going to be anywhere between $150 to $300. That is just for a basic or beginner sewing machine. Along with the sewing machine, there are different notions that would come with it that you would not have to buy secondhand, which include a set of sewing needles, If you were to buy this separately, you could buy a universal pack, which would average around $7 per package. Next, a sewing machine typically comes with a set of bobbins. Those are used to hold a lower thread on a sewing machine to help create the stitches. If your sewing machine does not come with bobbins, you are looking at paying an average of $4 per package. And the last thing included with a sewing machine typically is called a seam ripper, which is used to cut or remove unwanted stitches. And if you were to buy that separately, it would cost an average of $2. Other things that are recommended to have whenever you are looking at getting into sewing include buying a pair of fabric scissors. That can range anywhere between $10 to $50. I will have a link for a set of fabric scissors down below that I got from Amazon for just under $20. You will also need threads. I'd recommend when starting out grabbing at least all-purpose polyester thread. It's a very universal thread, and that would cost you an average of $4 per spool. You are also going to need pins or clips. I would suggest grabbing glass head pins over grabbing clips, as the glass head pins are a lot more universal and they can be used to pin patterns to fabric, the fabric to the fabric, and glass head pins can also be ironed over. So if you have a piece of fabric that is pinned down, you can throw the iron over that pin without worrying about it melting into the fabric. I also recommend grabbing an iron and an ironing board or an ironing mat. An iron is going to cost an average of $15 to $50. And if you're going for cheaper, I would recommend grabbing an ironing mat, which goes on an average of $15. But if you would prefer to grab an ironing board, that is going to range between $25 and $50. Next thing I recommend grabbing is going to be a pair of fabric tape measures. They average about $2 per purchase, and this is only necessary if you are needing to accurately take measurements for your body or someone else's. Next thing I recommend that you may need is going to be a pattern. Whether you choose to make clothes or just pieces in general, you may have to have a pattern to work with to be able to make the garment. With that being said, there is no good average price, because you could buy patterns on sale from some of the big pattern companies like Simplicity, or you could end up buying patterns from like indie pattern makers like on Etsy. So I will not put in a price here because the answer is unknown. You can also check out like YouTube or just look up free sewing patterns, and try to avoid having to pay for any sewing patterns is also an option. And lastly, the last thing that you are going to need is going to be fabric. You can choose to use fabric at your own place if you're just trying to fix up like a pair of pants or hem up a shirt or whatever. You can end up saving money by not having to purchase anything. You can also check out thrift stores so you're not having to pay full price. And then lastly, you can also check out fabric stores, which is going to probably be the most expensive in terms of grabbing fabric, but it will definitely probably be the highest quality fabric that you would be looking at. And I will also not include a price on this one because it could vary between being free and being very, very expensive. With that being said, that gives our sewing basics total to be $170 to about $360. That is just the basic price of what you're going to be looking at paying. Does not include the pattern or the fabric, since those portions are unknown. So that concludes our video. If you have any questions, please let me know down below, and I hope you'll have a great day. Goodbye.